guys, I hope you are all well. My name is Ben Marshall and today I will be going through every single Facebook guitar bargain I have ever bought. Now, we've all been there late at night, you're browsing through eBay, you're looking at all them amazing guitars, and then you turn around and realise you're absolutely skint. So you put eBay in the bin, you put Reverb to one side and you head to the home of bargains, which is Facebook Marketplace. I've been a passionate user of Facebook Marketplace for a fair few years now, and I've got a few bargains along the way. Loads of my gear is from there, so I thought it'd be a good video if I went through every single bargain that I've got on Facebook Marketplace, told you how much it cost, how much the going rate of it is, and in some cases how much that piece of gear was when it was new. So let's have a look through them. So we're going to start with the amp that you're going to be hearing today for a few of the different bits, and that is my Fender the Twin. So they made these late 80s, early 90s, I believe, but a lot of them I've seen have got red knobs on them and they're known as the Evil Twin. That isn't this is just sort of the Twin, but I think they're fundamentally the same amp. So I'm not entirely sure on the year, but that's by the by. This thing is a 212, it's 100 watts, it's a full valve amplifier, it weighs an absolute ton, and it is in this stunning fake snakeskin. It's got 2 channels on it. I never even bother with the second channel, to be honest. I just use the clean channel, and it's got a beautiful reverb, which is a bit temperamental, unfortunately. So I bought this amp for a grand total of £220 off Facebook Marketplace. It'd been on there about 2 minutes, I think, and the stars aligned, and I found it. So I went to the guy's house. He was a lovely chap. He hadn't played it since he'd been in a band in school, which I think was in the early 90s, and he'd turned it on and off sporadically, but not a lot. And I think it had a cat living in the back of it. It had a lot of hair and some twigs in the back as well. But we got it home and it's the first amp. I just gave it a good scrubbing down, to be honest, gave it a good clean with some wipes. And it worked perfectly for a couple of years. And I always thought, when it breaks, because surely it won't last that long, I'll get it fixed and do a proper job. But it never broke. So I had a bit of money and I decided to get it fully gone over and serviced. And I regret that to this day, because I just sort of opened a bit of a tin of worms. I had new valves in it and then it blew, and then my amp tech retired and I had to take it to another one, and the bill was like 500 or 600 quid, which is painful, but the amp itself was only £220, so I'm classing that as a Facebook Marketplace bargain. It sounds absolutely beautiful on a clean channel, but also I love this thing when you just slap a dirty fuzz pedal through it or something. So it's just a brilliant bit of gear, and £220 for an American made valve amp. I don't think I want to be gigging with it anytime soon, because it will break my back, and it's a little bit wobbly, the chassis is. I think it's had a bit of a life, but as a recording amp it's absolutely mint. Unfortunately it's been a bit temperamental again at the minute, so that probably tells you why you shouldn't spend £220 on a valve amp on Facebook Marketplace. But never mind, moving on. Values for these, I've looked on Reverb and the prices sort of range from about 450 quid right up to the most expensive one available is £4,500, because it used to belong to Eric Clapton. So if it's good enough for Clapton to play through, then I think it's good enough for me to spend £220 on Facebook. So that's the first bit of gear. Okay, so the next bargain I'm going to show you is my Boss DD3 digital delay. Now, from what I could find out, this is quite an early one from the 90s, and it's a made in Japan one, and I bought this for £30 on Facebook Marketplace, and it was off a lad that was a friend of a friend, and I met him in town near the bus station, and I bought this off him out of his backpack, and it was a bit beat up at the time, and it's no more beat up now, sort of 10-15 years later. It's an absolutely wicked delay pedal. I've used it on everything. I still use it now. I love the slapback on it, and they're quite valuable. So this cost me £30. Now it is a Boss pedal, so these things go for different prices, but I've seen these, the Japanese ones, for as much as £180 on Reverb. So £30 is not bad, and I thought it had broke once because I was a fool and believed that could happen to a Boss pedal, and the power supply was in a bit wrong, so I bought a Hall of Fame, which I also love, and then I realised this of course wasn't broken and it's back on the board, and it's just a flipping amazing delay, and for 30 quid that is just ridiculous. So been stood on 1,000 times, done a million gigs, million recordings, and still going strong. and I hope it never fails me. Okay, so we're 3 items into the video, but I'm going to do the electric guitar stuff first, so I'm already going to cheat, unfortunately. This is a Boss double muff, and whilst it didn't come off Facebook Marketplace, I got this in a deal with a friend where he sold me a Marshall MG terrible half-broken amplifier and this for 50 quid. So let's call it 25 quid. I've never seen one of these before I got it, and it's basically a big muff, 2 big muffs in one pedal, but it just works with 1 knob per each, and you can either choose from having a single muff or you can double the muff, and it sounds wicked, and they're bizarrely valuable as well now from what I can find out. On Reverb these seem to be going between £110 and £180, so yeah, £25 pedal. So as I say, I'm cheating a bit because it's not from Facebook Marketplace, but it is a bargain. So the next bargain is my DANELECTRO Pro 56, which I bought off Facebook Marketplace probably about 10 years ago for the staggering price of £150. Now, these are always a bit of a weird one because some people wouldn't give you 50 quid for a DANELECTRO, and I've gone through stages of this guitar of absolutely loving it and thinking it's wicked, and then wanting to sell it, and then nobody will buy it off you for what you think it's worth. So I don't know what it's really worth, but people are selling them sort of like 300 quid mark, but again, it's what someone will pay for, isn't it? At the time, I bought this for 150 British pounds, and it's in a lovely sparkle finish. DANELECTROs have the weirdest, this model anyway, has the sort of weirdest bolt-on configuration, and these lipstick pickups, and you can actually sort of push the screws out the back if you push the top of the pickup. But it's a very robust thing. I think originally these things were made out of something called masonite, which is like compressed sawdust. But this is a made in Korea version, which from what I can find is a little bit more desirable. So it's got a metal nut and a rosewood fingerboard masonite body, 2 lipstick pickups. If you put it in the middle, it's a really cool sound in the middle position because it runs it in parallel, which is the position I like the most. As I say, I've had this guitar a long time, and I go between liking it and having it settled for slide and then neglecting it. It's in a little bit of a neglecting phase at the minute because I set it up for slide, realise I'm naff at slide, and then I've put it just back to standard tuning. But together we shall add this up into a bit of a rig, this first section of bargains. So £150 DANELECTRO, £30 Boss DD3, £25 double muff, and £220 the twin. So we'll see how this rig sounds. Ignore the other pedals, they don't count, alright? Then on to the double muff. Twice the muff. So I appreciate that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour through them bits of gear, but I am planning on doing some other videos with them in the future, and if there's anything you're particularly interested in, let me know, and I'll put that at the top of the list. So we're moving on to unfamiliar territory now, and the first thing is first. I'm not a proper bass player, I'm a fake bass player, and I play one of these. Now we're over that, let's go on to the bargain. So this is actually my wife's bass guitar. This is a SQUIER AFFINITY P-bass, and she got this alongside this stunning Fender Rumble 15, alongside a tiny little micro PA, a music stand, a terrible microphone and a mic stand, for £80 off Facebook Marketplace, all of that in one go, which is a pretty mega deal. So this is lovely in blue. It's a precision bass. These are the strings that came with it, I think. That action is absolutely horrendous because I've never got around to fixing it, but it's a precision bass, it's an Affinity, it plays really nice. It's just a bass. So we'll get some sounds on this quick, and forgive my plectrum hand. £209 new for one of these, which is still a great price. Squire makes some absolutely awesome stuff, and I'm going to do some more Squire videos in the future. But yeah, 80 quid for this, plus a load of music gear. And this is why Facebook Marketplace is so great. I think it was a student who needed to pass a module in his course for his GCSEs. So he bought the full bass kit, everything he needed to play bass and sing a song, finished his GCSEs, realised that music wasn't for him. God bless him. I wish I would feel like that as well, so I could just give up on this dream and move on with my life. There we go. So I'm cheating again in this video because this bargain is too good not to tell you about, but it didn't technically come from Facebook Marketplace. Many years ago, my brother had an acquaintance whose father had given him a bass, and I don't think he really liked his father, if memory serves me right, but I didn't know this guy, so don't hold me to that. And he had no interest in playing the bass. So my brother took me along, knowing I'm a bit of a guitar dweeb, and he opened the case to see if it was worth the whole £80 that he was asking for it, and this came out. And this is an Ibanez Blazer Series Roadster from the 80s, and I knew absolutely nothing about them at the time, but I picked it up and went, that feels like a pretty good quality instrument for £80. So before we could talk too much about it, we slammed the case and we took it away, and since then I stole it off my brother, and here we are. These things are absolutely awesome. It's Japanese, it's from the 80s. They were known for building stuff so well at that time. And it's just a rip-off of a precision bass. A really ugly rip-off of a precision bass. I mean, possibly the best headstock you've ever seen in your life. It is a shape. And it's a bit odd down here as well. It's had some abuse over the years by me. The pickup failed in it, so I've got a Seymour Duncan. I can't think of the name, but it's a good one. And then it's also got a tiny little switch, which is meant to make it brighter, which a mate fitted for me. But it doesn't do an awful lot, but it's nice to have an extra switch, isn't it? This is brass, I believe, the bridge down here. And as I say, it's had a bit of abuse off me and every band I've been in over the years, including some sketchy punk bands and questionable decisions when we were young. But you know, it's the fun of music, isn't it? And you do a lot of different things. And it's had a million different stickers slapped on it over the years. At some point, I thought it was cool to call it Warhorse because it had been through the wars. Not sure about that now. It's a sticker from my brother's stag do, Jerry Landreth sticker, my band, a mate's band. Time we got to play at the Bodega, which is a cool venue. And this was the first sticker which sort of started it all. This is out of a Guitar Hero pack. Someone stuck some eyes on the back of it. And I've never brought myself around to being able to take any of these shocking stickers off. It's beaten to death. It's had a life. It's absolutely substantial instrument, and it sounds wicked, and I love it. And it cost £80. So standard prices at Reverb at the minute are anywhere from like 450 quid up to like 700-800 quid. But I think it's worth every penny of that. I've picked up Fender precision basses of a similar era and later, and it feels like one of them. I can't see how you could make the instrument any better, to be honest, for spending more on it. It's just a proper solid rock bass, and it's had the life of a solid rock bass. I should probably say, before I go any further, I didn't say this for last bass, we are going through the stunning Rumble 15 just to show. We're sticking with a Facebook themed rig. This is 15 watts of pure power. You give it to people when they come round for a jam and they get sad and they go, is that really what you're going to make me play out of? And my answer is always, yes, I've got neighbours, play out of the Rumble and keep quiet. So mercifully we're back onto 6 strings with some acoustic guitars now. This one is my Ibanez, and I'm going to have to look at the screen to tell you the ridiculously long name of this guitar. Ibanez AW400CE-LVG acoustic, which is catchy and inspires soul and passion within me. This guitar I bought for 120 quid off Facebook Marketplace, and it's an absolute bargain. It was a bargain when it was new, I think about 350 quid. And why is it such a bargain? Well, it has got a solid spruce Sitka top, mahogany back and sides and neck. It's got open back Grover tuners, which are very nice, and it's got a Fishman preamp for 120 quid. It has got a tiny little crack in this top, which is pretty superficial to be honest and doesn't make a difference. And I bought this because when people come to record with me, singer-songwriters often don't have the nicest guitars that I record anyway, and I just wanted something solid and that I could pass to them if we needed to record something. It's a wicked sounding dreadnought with a little cutaway. I took the action down a little bit to make it more playable, which I think is why the guy sold it really. He just thought, oh, it doesn't play very nice, I'm not interested in it. But for 120 quid to get a solid wood acoustic guitar with a Fishman preamp and Grover tuners, I think that's an absolute bargain. So I'm going to give it a bit of a strum now. Please don't pay too much attention to how I've mic'd this up. I'm more focused on trying to get through my bargains than making beautiful audio recordings today, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea. There you go, £120 acoustic off Facebook Marketplace. Beautiful. And I would say keep an eye out for old Ibanez Artwood stuff, because it got okay reviews at the time, but I think they're a bit more than the sum of their parts, and if you got one set up nice, I think you'd have a really decent budget acoustic guitar. So, as you may have seen in the title of this video, one of these Facebook Marketplace bargains is a £65 USA made guitar, and that is this one. This is an Ovation 1612 model, which is from the 80s, and it came up on Facebook Marketplace literally a couple of weeks ago for 65 quid, and it was down as a bit knackered with a very vague description. It said it had a split top, which it certainly does, and it said a fixer-upper or just hang it on your wall. I've got a little bit of a history of these guitars because my dad bought one of these brand new in the 80s and he spent about 450 quid on it. These were pretty new at the time, and I am no expert on Ovation, so you'll have to give me some slack, but they are made out of this sort of carbon fibre on the back, and I think the story is that the guy was an engineer and he was trying to invent something for helicopter rudders, blades, whatever they're called, the swizzly bits on top of a helicopter. And he was also a musician, and he came up with this material and thought, wouldn't it be interesting to put that on the back of a guitar? It's a little bit painful to think my dad probably could have bought a Martin for that money back in the day, which would be worth a lot, I'm guessing. But this is a cool guitar nonetheless. He's a left-handed player, and this, without me knowing it when I bought it, is a left-handed one as well, and it's virtually exactly the same guitar. I think it's the Balladeer model, so it's a bit posher. But yeah, for 65 quid, I just thought I can't not buy my dad's American made Ovation. I don't think these things, I think the popularity of them comes and goes a bit, and I wouldn't necessarily be one for saying I want a guitar that's half made out of carbon fibre, but whenever I've heard my dad's in the past, it's just a nice sounding guitar. It's got a solid top and it's just something a bit unique, and they play really nice. So I thought for that money, it's got to be worth it, and surely I can try and fix it for that as well. So it is a bit more knackered than I probably would have hoped for. Somebody has converted it to right-handed somewhere along its life. So it's got a jack hole there that someone's drilled in the back. think this has been moved. The volume knob's been moved from that side, but I'm not sure. The top's cracked, as I say. It's missing the bridge and pickup. This bit needs gluing down again, certainly. And as it's been converted to right-handed, someone's obviously absolutely loved this at one point, and they've even gone to the trouble of having somebody install fret markers on the right-hand side, who's done a nice job. And they're on the left-hand side as well, so choose which way around you want to play it, I guess. It's always a bit confusing because the Ovation logo always faces that way, even on the left-handed ones. I think they did as little as possible in the factory to just swap them over to left-handed if people wanted them that way, which is understandable really, but it makes them a little bit hard to identify what they were meant to be. But this one has an L written in it, which means left-handed, and I say a few other clues that it used to be that way around, including this wooden bit here, which is sloped the wrong way for a right-handed player. Somebody's tried to stick a nut on it at some point and not done a great job, but as I say, someone must have loved it at one point because it's been played so much. I'll get some close-ups of this, but the fretboard is worn away, almost like someone's tried to scallop it. It's that worn away down here. And I don't know quite what I'll do with it, but I think if somebody loved it this much at one time, I should try and make it at least strum a chord. And I might make a video of that as well in the future. I think the biggest issue might be this cracked top, but all the bracing's still there. So my plan is to spend £80, get a bridge and pickup piece, which they still make, slide it in, and see what it sounds and plays like, and go from there. I don't want to spend loads of money on it, to be honest, but these things are worth between sort of 600 quid and 1200 quid for a really nice one, from what I can see. And 65 quid, how can it not be worth £65 for an Ovation? These were like so cool when I was young, and people were like, oh my god, you've got an Ovation. And I think there's some soul somewhere in this guitar to find. So if you'd like to see a video of me trying to get it back to a playable state, please let me know. But £65 Ovation, there it is. I can't make any noise on it, unfortunately, though. There's no strings. So my last Facebook bargain of the day. It's not strictly guitar related, but I thought it was something fun to end on. So this is a Fidelity Playmaster reel-to-reel from some point in the 60s. I don't think it was a particularly expensive thing to buy at the time, but pretty cool. And because I record people, I thought, what an awesome novelty. And if I can find some way of getting a microphone in and out of that, it could be a really cool thing. So I bought this for 40 quid off a bloke on Facebook Marketplace, and like all good sketchy deals, I met him in a Tesco car park where he got out his boot. He was actually a thoroughly nice chap, like many of these deals, and he just said, here it is, I've had it a while, I don't want it anymore, it's 40 quid, I'll show it you're working. And we actually walked over to the car wash attendants outside Tesco and asked if we could plug it in to where their jet washers were, which is a bizarre experience. He was a man full of confidence, he didn't mind. So we plugged it in and it worked, and the last thing he said to me was, I think a local choir recorded on it from some point in the 70s, and if you managed to get it off that machine, I'd really like a copy. So I think I took his email address at the time, but I haven't got any further with it yet, really. It's really hard to find these connections and mics that go in and out. So if anyone has a bit more expertise on how I would get this into the digital domain, please let me know, because it's got some really cool old choir recording on it, and I'm reluctant to see that, you know, go. So I won't get rid of it, but it'd be cool to figure out how to use this in a bit of a recording setting. So far it's mainly starred in a few music videos from people I know. But at the end of this video, please enjoy some choir music from somewhere in Derbyshire between the 60s and 70s. As a final point with this as well, I don't want to get too soppy, but I think it's why I love recording and documenting things, because even if it doesn't mean a thing to the vast majority of people, I think it's so cool to document a point in time that mattered to somebody that you can go back and visit. So it's a bit sad this recording hasn't got back to the people who own it. Who knows, maybe it's on another copy somewhere. But I love the fact you can find things like this, and I hope in the future somebody maybe finds something of mine and thinks it's cool that I've recorded and documented. So I hope that's not too soppy for you. But yeah, a really cool bit of kit, and I hope to put it to some better use in the future. And if you know anything about these things, please email me, because I'd love to know a bit more and how to use it more effectively. So on that point, thank you very much for watching this video. Mine has been Ben Marshall. I'm going to be making a few more of these on different topics, so stick around. Please like and subscribe to the channel, because that helps me more than you'll ever know. And I want to do some cool Facebook Marketplace challenges where we buy rigs with a few friends for cheap amounts of money. But to do that, I really need a few subscribers to justify it. So please do that. Give this video a share, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. Take care, guys. Cheers.